This episode of Bouts Talking Bouts is brought to you by Bare Knuckle Betting Shark. Winning parlays, if you're looking for them in BKFC, you got to be checking out BK Bet Shark. Here's the thing, $50 buys, you get a personalized bet slip. It's based on your own budget. You can be flexible. It is what works for you. And this guy's got the receipts. You can check out all the winning tickets. You can peep them, and you can do so at Bare Knuckle Betting Shark. Check him out on Instagram and get with it. Got them personalized betting slips going on, $50 buys. All right, on this episode of Bare Knuckle Radio, very excited to be talking to an individual who is very prominently featured on what many are calling potentially the biggest BKFC event of all time. It goes down on December the 2nd. It is BKFC 56. And a defense of the BKFC Featherweight Championship going on as champion Kai Stewart knuckles up and toes the line against Howard Davis. And great having Kai back on the show. How's your day going there, man? You having a solid one?
Yeah, I woke up at 5 a.m. this morning to go out hunting. It's hunting season. I gotta keep that predator mentality. I was gonna go shoot an elk or deer, and the wind was blowing too hard, so we decided just to call it, and we'll go next week sometime, and get that adrenaline pump before this fight. But typical day in the life of a Montana athlete, I guess.
Yeah, and another great chance to represent Montana and obviously yourself as well with this card coming up. It seems like there's a lot of excitement and just seeing different posts where you're discussing this card and just very much a star-studded affair. Like, when did you, I guess, initially get the bout announcement for this card? And just curious to get your feelings on it. I imagine you were quite excited, but just curious to get a sense of the timeline.
Yeah, so full disclosure, I was supposed to fight November 3rd on that card down in Florida against Datwin. That fell through. I don't know really what happened. All I know is that fast forward, the Ariel Helwani show where David announced the top 4 fights on that card. He 30 minutes before that interview, I was given a call by my manager, and he said, yo, watch the Ariel Helwani show. They're going to announce your fight. And I was like, holy shit. Because that was only about a month out. So a little short notice, a little less than 6 weeks out is whenever I found out about the fight. But, I've been in training camp since that November fight was offered to me. So I've had an extended training camp, and we're feeling really, really good about this.
So it was more something someone within your team kind of handled, like the Davis bout agreement, I guess?
I have. He's not a manager. He's like a manager. He's more of an advisor.
Okay.
But yeah, he takes care of all my fight agreements because he knows exactly what I want to do. Everything that I do in my fight, I listen to managers for sponsorship purposes. The manager is not going to be in the fight. So I found somebody that wants to work with me that'll listen to me, and it's my choice, my decision. So he just takes care of the little things because BKFC can be hard to work with sometimes. But it's been such a good run with what we have. So we're not going to change that because don't fix what's not broke.
And this is a bit of an adage that like some people can resonate with and some people not so much, and definitely one that comes from, I guess, like the MMA mindset, like Matt Hughes in a certain regard. Just that whole idea of, it's cool to capture the title, but it really underscores it to notch that title defense. Like, are you a person who's just like, I captured the title, so I'm the champion, and that's kind of that? Or is there a certain, I guess, significance and importance to that first title defense and everything?
There's a significance in every fight. Now I'm the champion. I'm the champion of the 145 division. I said it since my very first fight in BKFC. I said I could do it. I knew I would do it. And so, but as a wrestler, it's hard to be satisfied, just to put that into perspective. Wrestling season is about 3 or 4 months long. And, usually some big tournaments happen at the beginning of the year. You go in there, you win that. And it's like you've won a state title because it's all the same people, but why be satisfied with that? Because at the end of the year, you have the state tournament, which is the most important. So to me, it's just I'm excited. However this fight goes, I know I've trained my fucking absolute ass off, so I can accept whatever happens, and I believe we're going to be accepting that I'm going to be Ann still. But for the defense purpose, it is important, especially because it's against Howard Davis. Now, after I beat Howard Davis, I don't really know the route after that, because he's this quote-unquote king of the 145 division, the uncrowned king, or whatever they've been calling him. But it's like, once I beat this guy, it's time to find those big names, because this doesn't satisfy me, beating all these guys. Now, it's going to be fun. It's going to be a good time, and I can't wait to win. I can't wait to compete and be under those bright lights. But in the end, it's just another fight to me. Take the belts out of it. It's really no different.
I'd be curious to hear you expound upon like wanting bigger fights. Like, who and what would that represent to you, I guess?
So who would I want to fight after Howard?
Yeah, well, you were talking about almost using this as like a launching pad for like a bigger fight or a bigger name. Like, who are, I guess, some people that would fit within that, I guess?
Well, there's a fight happening on the fight card. So first off, I've answered this question a couple different ways, because I would love to see a couple of the top 5 guys at 145 fight each other, and then they can prove themselves to be a title contender. As of right now, Howard's jumping, and the last top 5 opponent that he went against, Louis Lopez, he lost. So to me, it's like, I think he was fed this title shot, and I think he's going to get a good dose of don't wish for what you don't want, and so first off, I would love to see the top 5 in my division take care of itself and then find the next contender. But Jeremy Stevens and Jamie Rivera are fighting at 155. I wish they were at 145, because both those guys are big UFC names, and that's the type of names we want to fight. That we all know that's going to be the bigger payday. They have the reputation to be big names, and Jeremy Stevens, he's a hard hitting guy, but I do think that he can be beat. And same with Jimmy Rivera. I mean, Howard Davis should have taken that fight, 5'4" versus 6'2". Honestly, I just don't understand. I think Howard, even though it went to a draw and it was a decent fight, I think Howard got a little bit exposed there, because you should be able to, like, at 6'2", you should be able to take care of those guys. You know what I'm saying? So, but yeah, really any guy that fought in the UFC or former champion Dat Nguyen, I would still love that fight. I think that he was the toughest guy at 145. So there's a slew of people I could fight. Give me somebody that's going to enhance my payday. I want a big payday. I'm a young rising star. I know I have star power. We just got to get there,
Yeah, I get what you're laying down. I guess I was wondering, like, because you mentioned the potential Dat Nguyen fight they were looking at in early November there. Is that something that would represent maybe a big name for you down the line? Is that something you're still interested in?
Yeah, absolutely. He's a former champion, and I do think that fighting and beating him means a lot more than fighting and beating Howard Davis. Like, don't get me wrong, Howard Davis is tough. He's a very solid boxer. But in terms of how long he's been in the sport, his achievements before this world title fight, like, this is his first thing. Dat Nguyen has proven himself as a champion. He's gone the distance, and arguably like, he had a very competitive fight with pound for pound number 1, or maybe number 2. I haven't looked. It might be but Palomino. So you have a guy like Dat Nguyen. That's definitely a win that's going to be important, not only for myself, but I think for the division and moving forward with younger talent, because Dat Nguyen's old. And he kind of represents the old school BKFC, because it's exploded so big. We saw a shift from old school BKFC, and now with the 145 pound division specifically, we have a lot of young guys. So you're seeing this shift into the new age of bare knuckle, and I think that I'm a front runner to be the face of that, and I want to beat the old timers. I want to beat those guys that have proven themselves.
Well, that was kind of like, part of what we were talking about last time almost. And I've seen in some other interviews as well, just, making the right choice in terms of like pursuing this as the combat sport, because you obviously do have the wrestling experience and have done mixed martial arts. But last time you were talking about how there's a level of oversaturation in that market, and it seems like you have like a ton of, I guess, momentum and just like so much more to do in this sport in such a longer kind of timeline. It's interesting that you phrase it in like a generational kind of sense. And I mean, I guess you kind of see that in even some of the present rankings too. Like Brendan Allen seems like he's kind of like on the come up and is a newer guy and whatnot. So yeah, interesting.
Yeah, and he's one of those guys I would love to see. I would love to see a Brandon Allen versus Howard Davis fight, and then me fight the winner of them after Dat win. Like, I was hoping I fought Dat win, and we saw that number one contender fight, so that way the top five is actually fighting and taking care of each other. I do think Brandon Allen's really tough. I think Brandon Allen has a really good future in front of him. I don't think that he would be able to beat me, but it's just our weight class is deep with younger talent. I say younger, but I say because we're all newer in our career. Like Howard Davis is older than me, Brandon Allen's older than me, but we're still, in terms of our careers, we're still very new. That's why I think that the 145-pound division is one of the deepest, because we don't really know what we're going to get yet.
And I mean, just such an amazing series of accomplishments already. Like, a lot to talk about with this upcoming fight, but definitely feel like I'd be remiss if I didn't, touch on the last one there. Just, cementing yourself as the youngest champ in BKFC history, and doing so in front of, a partisan crowd, historic performance. Can you really put into words just what that moment felt like, becoming the inaugural 145-pound champion in BKFC and local territory?
Yeah, I think it was very. Very, very full circle. I grew up wrestling in Great Falls. I love the Great Falls. I love the Great Falls area. The community has really rallied behind me and supported me. It was a partisan crowd because of Joe Riggs. There's two gyms in town: Flow State Athletics, which is us, and Diesel's Counterpunch, which Joe Riggs doesn't coach anymore, but he has it, so it's definitely a separation. And I won a lot of people over that night, but being able to do it in front of my home crowd against who I was fighting, it was kind of like, not only it was a grudge match, but it was like I got to achieve my goal and my dream of being a world champion in front of my hometown. So there's really not a lot of people that can say that, and my next fight being outside of the city, it's just like everything happens for a reason, and I became a world champion for a reason.
I guess that kind of brings up a curious thing, because, I mean, it seems like there's been maybe a touch of banter with Howard Davis over the years, but, I mean, like you were alluding to, it seemed like the, quote-unquote bad blood, or like the, crosstown rivalry with Louis Lopez had a certain kind of like heat signature to it almost. Is that something that maybe benefits the performance to a certain degree? Is it kind of just like, whatever my temperament is to my opponent is kind of irrelevant, and I pursue each competition largely similarly? Like, I guess, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, me and Howard, I'm sure there's bad blood on his side, because he's salty as fuck that Louis beat him and he didn't get the title fight. But in the end, like I said before, it's competition to me. Like, there's nothing anybody can say or do that's going to change my performance on fight night. The crowd loves the banter, and, like everything with me and Louie and Joe, like all that was real. That was real beef. And, if me and Howard Davis say some shit, it's real, but it's not going to affect any type of performance on me. If anything, I think it's going to affect him. He's proven that he's a hothead. He can't control himself. You saw him arguing with Brian Duran whenever they're not even close to fighting. You see him still having Louis' name in his mouth because he's salty about that loss. So, I think he's going to come in with a lot of mental pressure on himself. He's coming into super new territory. I've fought for an amateur title at the Maverick Center before, so it's not new to me. The elevation's not new to me. The dry winter air is not new to me. I think all of this is going to play a factor, but On my end, mentally, my mental fortitude is just unreal, and I credit that to being a lifelong wrestler, and I was a part of a really tough wrestling team, and nothing is going to change the outcome on fight night other than hard work and dedication.
It's interesting, like you talk about the variables that you're thinking will be in your favor. Like one of the ones you just mentioned there seemed to be the difference in, I guess, composure and competitive familiarity, but also in referencing a previous article I saw of yours, it's like you were talking about how Howard seems to get very uncomfortable when pressured, and it seemed like when you were talking about his Rivera fight before, it was almost like the inference I was getting was he maybe didn't utilize the reach as well as he could have. So I guess in saying all of that, do you think like your big variables in this fight are, I guess, the composure and that like calculated pressure in fighting sort of approach?
Yeah, and it's going to boil down to this. He's going to sit on his back foot, and because I do believe he changed up. He got rid of, I believe his former coach was Ryan Perez. And he's been working on, staying on his back foot, using his 6'2" range, and it's just like, if he wants to take this title from me, he's going to need to do more than that, because I promise you, he's not going to be able to sit on his back foot with me. You could see it in his last 3 fights. He's really trying. He's really trying to settle down and use that range, but I don't think it's going to make a difference, because this is not a boxing match. If this was pure boxing, then I have a totally different opinion on it. But it's bare knuckle fighting championship, not bare knuckle boxing, and he's gonna. If he doesn't actively try to take it from me, it's going to be a bad night for him. If he tries to be flat-footed and stand on his back foot and use his range, he's going to be fucked. So no matter how this fight plays out, I do believe that I'm just going to take it away from him at every single corner.
And from some other interviews I was referencing, it seems like you're looking at this card, and understandably so, as a chance to like really, I guess, jettison yourself more into that like superstar kind of status. Like obviously being a champion is incredible, but it seemed like you were more talking about like a broader, I guess, bolstering of the cachet almost and everything like that. Like what are your thoughts on being part of a card like this, and I guess having the opportunity to be able to do that? It seems like in some other, I guess, posts that I'm seeing of yours, like I saw you kind of chopping it up with like Rick Ross and Tech 9 and some other guys. Like it feels like a statement win here could really like jettison you towards the stars in a sense.
Yeah, and that's exactly what the plan has always been, whether I was going to pursue, because I do love music. There for a while as a kid, like my route to superstardom, I thought was going to be music, just on capacity. And then, I thought I was going to become a superstar video game streamer, because my content's decent enough. I have a lot of fun doing it, but wrestling sent me on a fucking crazy path, and I got involved with MMA, and that was around the time Conor McGregor was like just the biggest star, and it's like a lot of people saw a lot of similarities in Conor's attitude and my attitude in my wrestling career. So I was like, I can really do this. So getting the belt is just the first step. Now it's time to win everybody over, and now that I'm on the biggest card BKFC has ever put on, people will see me, people will know my name, and I'm going to be victorious. I'm going to get on that mic after the fight, and that's what I do best. I speak very well, and I am willing to back up what I say, and I'm willing to call my own shots. Everything that I've said since my MMA career and BKFC career started has come true. So I just got to keep on that route. And, this is definitely the card to do it. I know a lot of big names are going to be in-house. I know that a lot of big names are going to be watching. And being only 23 years old, it's I'm right there. I'm right there, and I still have such a high ceiling, and that's what people don't really understand is every single day I'm growing. Every single day I'm getting better. I'm a student of the sport, and, I think that it's just a matter of time before I'm a superstar, and it's crazy to say it.
Yeah, I know. I'm kind of curious because we're talking about how deep this card is. It seemed like after your title winning effort, there was a certain level of indulgence in tacos and some adult beverages, which sounds like a great selly in my estimation. But I guess I'm just wondering, with a card like this and all that, are you going to be maybe putting the tacos and the adult beverages for like a later point in the night and staying for a couple bangers? Like, are there, obviously you have a very, blinders on focus to your fight and the task at hand, but when all is said and done, is there certain fights where it's like, oh yeah, I'd like to, hunker down and peep that one?
You gotta stay and watch Mike Perry, and we get our checks after the last fight, so I will be hanging around. I will be enjoying the fights. I'm hoping to get out of this Howard Davis fight unscathed, because I believe that I can do it. But it's going to be a party. It's going to be a party no matter what, because at 23 years old, no matter what happens that night, I've accomplished so much, and I have a lot to be grateful and proud of. And it's just going to be that much sweeter because we're going to take home a win. So no matter what, maybe no tacos because we're going to a new place. I don't know I think they serve just normal kind of bar food. So probably going to be looking at some mozzarella sticks and chicken strips. And don't forget the adult beverages. But we're definitely going to party after this fight. And yeah, I do think Mike Perry and Eddie Alvarez, that's a very, very intriguing fight to me. That was a tough fight. Like, I'm a huge McGregor fan, so whenever Alvarez fought McGregor, that was kind of a tough fight for me to pick, because obviously I'm a huge McGregor fan, but I was a huge Alvarez fan too. He's just a savage. He's mean. He's fucking like the underground king. Like, I do believe that the King of Violence belt fits both of these guys, and David Feldman's just crushing it right now. Doing this, like, he's doing the damn thing, and it's going to be a savage event. It's going to sell out the Maverick Center, and it's going to be a great night. It's going to be a really, really fun night.
Yeah, and it seems like it's almost a catalyst in a certain regard to what seems to be a big year for 2024. Like, I saw David Feldman almost describing it, like, maybe this wasn't verbatim the language, but something of this ilk, like it almost be like a make or break sort of year. So I mean, it just seems like such an amazing time to be, part of all this. And like you said, you're a younger, surging champion. So, I mean, it must be super exciting for you, the confluence of like the upward trajectory of the sport, I guess, in concert with your own.
Right. I totally agree there. The biggest thing that I hope is I'm gonna keep winning, and I hope David Feldman starts trusting me. I know that he likes how I carry myself. He loves what I've done in terms of, the Rick Ross pool party was mentioned. A lot of, and me, throwing first pitches out at the local baseball games, just showing the belt, being a champion of the sport. I know that they really like it. I'm still just so young that I don't think that he trusts it yet, but in the end, I'm always going to bet on myself, and eventually Dave Feldman's going to start betting on me too. I'm grateful to be a part of it, and I'm grateful to be so young, because it just lets that ceiling. The ceiling's so high up there. I can't even see it right now. So we're so far away from that ceiling that David Feldman has a lot to look forward to, just from me, let alone the whole organization, because it's a great organization, and they're doing a lot of really big things, and I'm so proud and grateful to be a part of it.
Yeah, it's incredible, and just some of the people they're drawing in. I mean, obviously, very high-level fighters, but just doing different interesting things. Like, I thought it was kind of entertaining after the Bryce Hall fight, where you tweeted out, "Give me Bryce Hall next." So just some interesting people in the space.
Yeah, the reason I posted that Bryce Hall thing is because in person, both, like, I've seen him 3 times in person now, and it's like, because we're both wrestlers, there were some words said on how we should train together, and then it's like I never heard anything. It's just like, come on, man, you didn't utilize a clinch at all. He's a former wrestler, and to my knowledge, he wasn't a terrible wrestler. Like, he actually wrestled. So I would have loved to train with him, but that's just one of those big names that would come with a big check. And if I ever got that opportunity, I would obviously say yes. And he likes to fight smaller people, and I'm a little bit bigger than G, but I'm still pretty small. I'll even cut down to 145 to make it appealing to him. But, as a champion, that's not really out there. But, that would just be fun. I think Bryce Hall was super friendly in the time that we did speak together. It was a good meeting, but in the end, it's all business. So, that would be a fight I would entertain.
Yeah, and it's curious because you would have to think he would maybe entertain doing another fight. It seemed like, it did end with like an injury more so, but it looked like he gave a good enough account of himself. So yeah, could be interesting. Just to say, it seems like you've got a fun series of options going forward. I know you got the nickname Hefty Bag, but hopefully that's applying to some of the checks you're making for some of these fights you got.
We're getting there. If I was still in MMA in my fifth fight, this is my sixth pro fight. I've done one MMA fight, but if I was 5 fights into my MMA career, I would not be making close to the money I'm making. But I'm still looking for more. I'm still, it's hard to be satisfied with these paychecks. But we're out here trying to just grow that bank account and set myself up for life.
Yeah, and it's kind of like what you were saying before with like the building of the trust with David Feldman and whatnot. Like, it just seems like one of those things where if you stay the course and keep consistent and doing what you're doing, it'll invariably kind of pop up with time. So yeah, just an interesting sort of juncture for sure, man.
Yeah, for sure. And like we said before, MMA is so saturated, and right now being the top of the game at 23 years old. So I say I'm at the top of the game, like I'm confident and satisfied, but I'm at the top of the game, but I'm still willing to be the hunter. I'm not the hunted. Everybody thinks because I have the belt, I'm the hunted, but no, I'm out here ready to kill, and that's that Montana mentality. And I'm just all I have to do is stay on top. I'm going to stay on top and keep running my mouth, and we're going to be a superstar.
And there's always different goals as well. Like, obviously, like, going on a run of title defenses, maybe even being part of the pound-for-pound rankings, if that's something you even place importance on. Maybe it's more of an arbitrary thing, but just to say there's always goals you can, create as you keep on this journey.
Right. I would love to see myself in the pound-for-pound after this fight. And, I'm going to resort back to my age. You just don't see another 23-year-old having a title. Now, with that said, I have to give respect where respect is due. Bryce Henry, he's a savage, and he won't beat my record of being 22 years old winning a title, but he could very well be a 23-year-old world champion. I do think that he's really tough, and I think he could beat Palomino, but I think in the end, I need to be considered for that pound-for-pound ranking after this win. Everybody's given Howard Davis so much credit. He got credit from Shaq, which I think was a total bullshit play that somebody was able to pay for, because like Shaq said that he's his favorite fighter in the BKFC, yet doesn't even follow Howard Davis, but he follows some other people. So it just made no sense to me. But it gave Howard Davis the fight, and in my opinion, it was a I don't want to say an easier fight, because like I said, I do respect Howard Davis's skill set, but it was a easier fight than Dat wins. So it's like, fuck it, everybody says I fight cans, might as well keep going.
I was going to say, kind of interesting commentary considering you beat the number one guy last time out, but I guess there's always going to be that, commentary from different people. I guess this isn't necessarily, tied into it, but I guess kind of over that, or with that umbrella rather, of maybe people just kind of talking trash a little bit. I did think it was kind of curious to see that Sean O'Malley press conference comment, because I think someone was asking like, oh yeah, like, another Montana champion, what do you think about that? And he didn't seem particularly kind. Like, were you sort of surprised by that, or what's the deal with that?
So I was surprised that so at first it was, next question is all he said. But you could tell that I'm definitely in his head and under his skin, because he had to elaborate. They didn't move on to the next question. He had to mention how I was in his DMs talking shit. But the funny thing is the only DM in question was from 2020. And so I have a buddy in Miles Mazurkiewicz, and if you look it up on YouTube, Miles Mazurkiewicz fucked Sean O'Malley up. Just absolutely fucked him up, rubbed Sean O'Malley's blood on his face once the fight was over. It was a first-round fight and a first-round finish. And, he posted something about wrestlers sucking or wrestlers don't got it, and all I did was link the YouTube video and say, what about Miles, the only wrestler you've ever faced? And he must not have liked that. It didn't surprise me, but, I absolutely love that he had something to say, because it's only going to help me. And, that's a fight. Let's do King of Montana one day. I don't give, he's saying all this shit about maybe fighting boxers, but if I suck as bad as he thinks that I do, because that's what he said, that kid sucks. If I suck, come fight me in Bare Knuckle. Come fight me, Sean. Let's see how tough you really are. Come fight me. But other than that, really, I bet on him for his fight against Aljamain. So I don't hate the dude, but I would definitely fight him. And because he said that I suck, it's like, in my opinion, he fucking sucks. That's my opinion on him.
No, I feel that, and I mean, fair enough. Just trying to, I just thought to mention that because I did, think it was a little bit curious. So I appreciate your side of the backstory, but yeah, just a lot of positive things you have going on. Definitely want to keep it positive. Like, I saw you doing commentary on a late July show, and it looks like you got the cracked skull pepper getting ready to roll out. So some fun projects on the go.
Yeah, and that's what this business is all about. It's just that. It's business. So it's more than just the fight game. Eventually, we can only take so much damage to our head. And, I find myself as kind of a smarter, more intelligent person. I have a pretty good brain in my skull. So I want to try to protect that and find as many business routes as possible before I decide to hang it up, which obviously I'm only 23, so I have quite a while, but it's something I want to start thinking now, because, this could all be over in an instant. And I think more people need to be real about that. A lot of people just think that people never lose, people never get injured, people never this, people never that. And to me, it's like, I'm going to make as much money as possible, as quickly as possible, just to protect myself. So that's what all those little projects are for. I'm so excited with the Alpine Touch collaboration with Cracked Skull Pepper. I've been from Montana. Like I said, I was about to go shoot an elk or a deer this morning, and that Cracked Skull Pepper is going to pair really nicely with that. Get a nice pepper crisp edge on that steak, and it's going to be fire after this fight.
Yeah, and who knows? I mean, maybe you could even get your own strain going on at some point. I saw the native grown shout-outs, and it looked like you were smoking a blunt in early August, so maybe you get that going at some point.
Well, that is actually already in motion. Native grown, shout out. Absolutely love my sponsor. They will be coming to Great Falls soon, and with the Great Falls shop comes Outcast OG. So it's going to be definitely, I'm glad you mentioned that. Owner Charlie Swan, Chuck, he did a podcast the other a couple weeks ago, and that's kind of whenever it was, I was in the comments hyping him up, and I was like, yo, when's the strain coming out? And he goes, once the Great Falls shop is open. So I think that's going to be a really cool collaboration, and all my herb loving friends are going to absolutely love the strain, because it's going to be a very potent one. The one that we got picked out should be consistently above 30%, so that's going to be really fun.
Yeah, and you've been really great with your time, and hopefully I'm not encroaching too far here, but I mean, I feel like I'd be remiss if, as like a last thing, I didn't, touch on the seeming bit of shift in the nickname. You kind of even mentioned it there with like Outcast and everything. Like, when did that start getting in motion? Like, it seems like there's maybe a move to, I guess, switch the moniker from Hefty Bag to Outcast. Like, what's all happening with that, I suppose?
So Jeff Houston, shout out to him. He didn't want to get rid of the Hefty Bag nickname because he said that it's his favorite name to announce. So obviously, Jeff being my dog, I had to keep that going. So that was my first nickname that my coach gave me for my debut, and it stuck, and the chant just sounds awesome, whether they're chanting just hefty or hefty bag, like it just flows. The Outcast, is a little bit more of a marketable nickname, which is why we added it, but it also just goes with my life so well. In my whole life, I've been an outcast because I've just been a student of my sport, or because I get hyper-focused on everything. I call myself an athletic nerd. I was always missing things, and, struggled with relationships, whether with people, because I was so focused on my craft, and it kind of made me this outcast character. And then once I got into fighting, it's like I do have a lot of haters, and might as well market and make money off the haters. And the Outcast, a lot of people liked it. A lot of people were like, wow. And once I released that nickname, a lot of people hit me up about it, and were like, listen, it's kind of generic, because we see the Outcast in a lot of different places, but in the end, I don't think it's any more fitting for anybody else. I think that I truly am an outcast, and people didn't expect me to win that title fight. People don't expect me to beat Howard, but I'm always going to bet on myself, and that's what outcasts do. We do our own thing, and if people don't like it, fuck them.
Well, I appreciate the explanation, and I mean, you can ultimately have, two monikers at the end of the day. I mean, some people have innumerable nicknames, so I mean, they both apply to you, and they both have a certain, I guess, fun to them. Like, with Hefty Bag being the first one, and it has that chantable kind of quality, but Outcast resonating with you in a few regards. So yeah, really love to hear that, man. But like oh, sorry, go ahead.
Well, yeah, my bad for interrupting, but
No.
Back on the Outcast, I forgot one of the reasons why we even did it. So we wanted to to go with the Outcast nickname, we were trying to find something that like resonates with my life, and the Outcast character being an outcast of society, outcast of like the friend groups, everything. That played a huge part. But the word cast, because a lot of my content has to do with fishing, and we wanted to have a marketable name, and being in Montana, there's so much fishing to do. It's one of my favorite hobbies. So, that just kind of was another piece of that to be able to explain that nickname. It just was a well-rounded nickname, is what we called it. Well-rounded. It's marketable. It fits my life. It goes with fishing because we're out there casting. But yeah, that's how the Outcast nickname came to be.
Well, I love the thought process behind that, and like you were talking about before with like some of your other projects, lends itself to a lot of other awesome like non-fight related endeavors as you go forward. So I just love to hear all that, man. Great mind for the game and everything, but you've been great with all this time you've given me, and have given me some tremendous insights. But just in trying to be mindful of your time and the rest of your schedule, Kai, is there maybe a final parting thought you'd want to add as we're sort of wrapping things up here, man?
Yeah, man. Well, to all the listeners out there, just keep believing in me. I got believe tattooed on my chest for a reason. And believe in me if you're a Bare Knuckle fan, because you're going to see my name for a while, and take me out of it. Believe in yourself, and you can do fucking whatever you want to do in this world. With that said, if there's any local people tuning in once I post this link, don't forget Stadium Sports Bar and Casino is going to be the official watch party December 2nd starting at 7 p.m. So tune into that. Shout out Alpine Touch, Native Grown, Dreamwave Clothing. Artlanta is going to be painting my walkout outfit for the event, so that's going to be super, super fun. He's a big name artist. He paints the car. He painted 6ix9ine's cars. He did a painting for Drake, all sorts of stuff. So super excited to work with him. And, to the moon. And all my links are in bio. Just announced my OnlyFans. There's going to be non-explicit content on there. So it's just going to be like a lot of training stuff, a lot more interactive than I would maybe be on Instagram or Facebook. So, but yeah, other than that, man, thank you for the time. I have like the interviews, and marketing myself is one of my favorite parts of this game. And thank you for giving me a platform to do so.
No problem, man. I mean, I really enjoy getting to talk to you. I think you have a lot of great insights into the game, and it seems like there's a lot of chapters to unfurl in this great story here, being that you're, such a young champion, and really excited to see that next chapter on December 2nd with BKFC 56. So thank you for giving me all the insights into this Howard Davis fight with everything related to your featherweight championship. And yeah, just thanks so much for coming on Bare Knuckle Radio. I'm looking forward to peeping this fight when it goes down. But until then, Kai, you have a good rest of your day, man.
You too, man. Thank you. Hit me up anytime.
This episode of Bouts Talking Bouts is brought to you by Bare Knuckle Betting Shark. Winning parlays. If you're looking for them in BKFC, you got to be checking out BK Bet Shark. Here's the thing. $50 buys, you get a personalized bet slip. It's based on your own budget. You can be flexible. It is what works for you. And this guy's got the receipts. You can check out all the winning tickets. You can peep them, and you can do so at Bare Knuckle Betting Shark. Check him out on Instagram and get with it. Got them personalized betting slips going on, $50 buys.